Once you identify your goals, you got to identify high value activities. And the high value activities are the actions, the consistent actions you're going to take and need to take to achieve your goal. This is where most people miss the mark. They set this great goal and then they have no idea what they need to be doing on a daily basis to achieve it, or thinking or affirming. You then want to identify low value activities. These are things that need to be done, but you can delegate. Get those delegated, and then you got to eliminate non-value activities. Hi, my name is Annette Ba'u, your host of the Wealth Inside and Out podcast. I'm a certified financial planner and founder of the Millionaire Insider. For over 30 years, I have been advising and researching the top 1% of millionaires, and I am passionately obsessed with money, mindset, and the intersection of self-worth and net worth, and how the two connect and allow us to live fulfilled and wealthy lives on our terms. I'm a Midwestern girl who had a dream, began investing $25 a month 35 years ago, and today have a multi-million-dollar net worth. I teach the tried and true that only someone with over 3 decades of experience advising millionaires would know. This podcast is different, about much more than money. We talk about mindset, success, money blocks, worth barometer, and all aspects of money and topics from practical manifestation, along with real-world how-to and everything in between, with the goal of making your journey easier and more fun. Think of this as coffee, actually matcha tea, learning real-world common sense money and life advice from a BFF that you can start applying today. If you want to create a financially free life you love, you are in the right place, my friend. This is the Wealth Inside and Out podcast. So hello, my friends. It's so great to be back and awesome to be talking about a topic that I just am so passionate about. And one of the reasons I love goal setting is because so many people do it wrong. And I did too, because most people don't even know how to set goals to achieve them. Meaning a lot of people are really good at setting goals, but we got to set them to achieve them. And one of the biggest things about goal setting is realistic goals. Now, anyone that knows me knows I do not like realistic goals. And I also don't like green bell peppers. In fact, I hate the two. And I take that word very seriously. Like I rarely use the word hate, but both of those fall in that category. It's that serious. And if I would have fallen prey to realistic goals, I'd be living probably in a podunk rural community with a bunch of kids in a trailer with no means to support them. Now, if that's your goal, that's great. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that goal. It just wasn't mine. And the problem with setting goals that aren't what you want in your heart of hearts, or are ones that are just the outcome is going to be devastating because you're setting ones that are so conservative, is not ideal. My goals, just like the multimillionaires I have spent over 3.5 decades advising, set crazy goals. Ones where people look at us and laugh and think we're crazy, like we're off our rocker. And most people and companies will say, you got to set a goal that's about 15 to 20% increase in revenue. And they intentionally set them where they are completely realistic, and because they want to give you a feeling of that you can do it. And what's so fascinating is that we then stay stuck. Let's say you're making $100,000 and now you're setting a goal of 15%. So now you're making $115,000. How long is that going to take you to be able to become a multimillionaire or a millionaire or even financially free? Forever, if you ever do it. It's like the example of TJ. He had been stuck making very good income, but $500,000 for like 20 years until he met me. And I'm like, what's going on with this realistic goal? Every time he'd go to his manager, they would tell him, don't set major goals, just a little increment. And he had just basically stayed stuck. He'd have an occasional good year and then be right back at 500,000. Within 4 months of him learning what I'm going to teach you today, his revenue increased by 37% to 750,000, on track to 1 million. The odds that I would ever hit my net worth goal, which I hit in 2021, is crazy. It's unbelievable. In fact, I guarantee you, I shared it with one of my peers who has also a major net worth. And I said, I'll be lucky if I'm 100 and I hit it. And he said, that's the fun of it. Well, in 2021, as I mentioned, I hit it. And it's just, that's an example of it. I was very clear on what it was. And I remember setting it thinking, I'll never likely hit it. But in my heart of hearts, it felt right. And it really felt right because it felt like once I hit that, I could really focus on doing the things I'm doing now, like this podcast, and really focusing in on giving back. And the one thing that I can share with you that's probably the best news of all is that if you apply even a fraction of what I teach you today, you can't help but dramatically improve your odds of success and wealth from the inside out. For today's show notes, go to themillionaireinsider.com/11. For all show notes, go to themillionaireinsider.com/podcast. The information we provide is not intended to replace any investment, financial, tax, or any other advice. Before beginning, please consult with your own team of advisors and review your situation. You agree to hold MillionaireSeries.com, Annette Ba'u, and all affiliates harmless for information contained in these trainings. All international copyrights are reserved. So let's dive into how to set and achieve goals like a millionaire. And really, this is how to set and achieve goals like any successful person or anyone that wants to achieve a level of financial freedom. Some people think, oh, I don't want to be a millionaire. Well, why not? You have to work as hard not to be as you do. It's just like an extra zero. And once you get clear on that and you get over the like, oh my gosh, being a millionaire would be so hard. I don't find it more difficult than being broke. In fact, I think it's easier because you're focused on what you want. When you get there, you can help more people. You have fun along the way. You can afford things along the way. I mean, it's like a triple win. So no excuses in this zone. All right. So what you're going to learn today and how to set and achieve goals like a millionaire is the mindset of wealth and how to achieve it, how to state goals, and the secret to achieving your goals, as well as some goal categories. And then I'm going to give you some examples of goals and high value activities. Now, if you want a resource, it's a great resource, our goal setting guide. It'll allow you to follow along and start setting your own goals. You can go to themillionaireinsider.com/GSG for goal setting guide. But if you're like our community, you love to start putting the episode into action so you can start getting results. The goal setting guide provides you the step-by-step guide to set goals so you can achieve them. Again, themillionaireinsider.com/GSG. This resource provides you the insight millionaires and other successful people use to achieve their dream. Again, themillionaireinsider.com/GSG. The first thing to set goals is you've got to get clarity. Interestingly, many millionaires can decide on a goal, focus on it, and manifest it. They see it, and it's almost like their entire being and actions drive them directly to that goal. But that's not the case for most people, meaning a lot of people who are ordinary, like myself, and achieve extraordinary success. And many millionaires, it's not either. So some it is, some it isn't. But for those of us where it's not super easy, there are steps we can take that can dramatically improve our ability to set goals so that we can achieve them. And that's what we're going to dive into. And the first step is you got to get clear on what you want. And most people say, that's a really good question. And then they say, well, they know what they don't want. No, you got to know what you do want. How much money do you want? Where do you want to live? How many hours do you want to work a week? What kind of car do you want to drive? Get really clear on that. What kind of relationship do you want with your family? Who gets into your inner circle? All those things are critical. All right, manifestation. So one of the most important things we've got to do is incorporate practical manifestation. And I use the example of my dad. My father was the best fisherman I have ever met in my entire life. And I can remember we had a cabin that was about an hour, maybe 2 hours away from our home. And he'd say to my mom, I'm going up to the cabin. I'm going to catch fish and I'll be back. And he'd typically stay all night. He would come back. And every single time he'd come back, he would have the maximum amount of fish caught. And I remember once my husband and I went up and visited him, our cabin, and we went fishing. And there's a 12 fish per person limit. And within an hour, he had his 12 caught, my 12 caught, and my husband's 12 caught. And it was fascinating. It was just like, there was no option. It was like, this is what I'm going to do. And then he went and did it. And I think manifestation has gotten such like a woo-woo crazy out there. And some of the times you listen to people. I mean, I've heard people that it's like, they sound crazy with all the stuff they're saying to do, remove all the hair on your body and then you manifest, but then they still have the hair on their head. Just bizarre things that are like, really? All I want you to think about when you think about manifesting is getting clear on what you want and then just going for it. And as long as you don't quit and as long as you stay focused, pay attention, do what you need to do, you're going to get what you want. And it's pretty that simple. People want to make it a lot more complicated. It's really not. Then you've got to focus. We're bombarded with about 100,000 messages a day. The secret is to train your mind. And one of the best strategies to do that is focused breathing. You can also do silent meditation, but that's a lot more difficult. You want to put your hands flat on your thighs with your feet flat on the ground. And the first couple breaths you take, just breathe in through your nose and let it out through your mouth, just a couple of them. And then the next ones, I want you to breathe in to the count of 8, hold it for 8, and then release for 16. Now, if that's really hard for you to do, then just breathe into the count of 4, hold it for 4, and release for 8. But breathe into the count of 8, hold it, and release for 16. Now, I encourage you to do 3 sets of that. And what I want you to do after you do the 3 sets, so again, breathe into the count of 8, hold it for 8, and then release for 16. And then one more. Release. Now, what I want you to do is focus on what you want more of: abundance, flow, wealth, health, clients. Breathe that in, hold it, see it permeating every cell of your being. And then I want you to release it and let go of whatever needs to go. Fear, you can't do it. Low worth barometer, anger, anything that's keeping you from achieving your goal. And I encourage you to do that first thing in the morning when you wake up, and last thing in the evening when you go to bed, and throughout the day whenever you need it. Whenever you need to recalibrate or get focused, just put your feet flat on the ground. You can put your palms on your thighs, either down if you need more support or up if you need more grace. And just breathe into the count of 8, hold it for 8, and release for 16. It is a game changer. All right, so we talked about clarity, but the real key is deciding what you want. And this is critical in the goal setting process. So I encourage you to just write out a list of everything you want to achieve in the coming year, 5 years, 10 years, and include both business and personal if you have a business. Most people have an easier time identifying what they don't want than what they do want. So just be aware of that. But then review your list and rewrite it or eliminate any objectives that you don't really want, like really, really want. As the saying goes, we can have anything we want. We just can't have everything. So you want to get really clear on that. The other thing about deciding what you want is make sure it's what you want and not what someone else wants. And what I want you to focus in on is the feeling you're going to have once you get it. One of the things that so many people don't realize is that when we set goals and say we want something like that new car or that new house, it's how you think you're going to feel once you get it. And I can remember, my kids are now in college, but when they were like, 8 and 10-ish, we were over in Europe and we were on the Mediterranean. And I don't typically take pictures and post them like when I'm there. I typically, if I'm going to do that, I do it afterwards. And I just do that for security. But in this particular situation, it was just so incredibly beautiful. And I took a picture and I said, I'm over here in the Mediterranean. We were in the south of France or the south of Spain. I don't know. It was just incredible. And we were having such a great time. And some woman responded to me and she said, well, I'm here in Podunk, Iowa. And these were her exact words. And I'm having a real great time with my kids at the water park. And I'd be having and she said it's kind of sarcastically, like, with some emojis. And she goes, I'd be having a great time too if I was over in the south of France in the Mediterranean. And it was so fascinating. I could just feel her energy. And the one thing I was so fascinating about that experience was I thought, that's the problem, is that we think like once we're over in the south of France, we're going to have this great feeling. But then we think like, if we're in Podunk, Iowa with our kids at a water park, we're not. And what I want you to get really clear on, and this has taken me years to figure out, is that we get to choose how we feel and what something means to us. And a large part of it has to do with what we think about it, what it means to us, what energy we give it. And I just remember thinking, I would be happy if I was with my kids, regardless of where I am. And I don't ever want to feel that the only way I could be happy is if I'm over on some really expensive trip or over in some really extravagant place. And so I hope you get that, because you can be as happy as you want in a hut with your family as you can be, in a 5-star hotel. This holiday season, we spend a lot of the holidays up at our mountain home skiing, and our younger son, who was a freshman in college, was coming up, and it was raining really bad. He almost rolled his SUV outside of Phoenix. And so we said, don't come up the mountain. Once you get up a ways, we're going to meet you. And it was supposed to just be flurries, but he's just not experienced driving in snow. And growing up in South Dakota, it's so dangerous to drive in snow if you don't know how. Well, we get down to the little town there, which has this little diner. And I mean, it's no longer like a flurries. It is like a blizzard. And the next thing we know, they close the road. So we go and eat at the diner. Thank goodness we had the diner to eat at. And that was at about 5:30. The roads are closed, and they're closed until 3 a.m. So we're like, okay, we'll just go either home, which is we could just go south. Well, there was a mudslide, so you couldn't get through there. All right, we'll just rent a room. Well, it was New Year's, like right around New Year's Eve, and there was no rooms, none. There was a possibility of a room that showed up like an hour and a half away, but they didn't know if they had it, and they weren't answering their phone. I'm like, we're not going to drive an hour and a half there and back. So it was so funny. So we're in our car. Now I have a nice SUV. The seats go back. They're heated. I mean, it's nice. We had a full tank of gas. My son was like so mad. Like he is like, this is ridiculous. And it's so funny because I'm sure that at one point in my life, I would have said the same thing, but I'm like, do you know how lucky we are that we have this nice car and that we're together and, we can have as much fun as we want. And, he, for the first like 2 or 3 hours, he's complaining, bitching and moaning. This is ridiculous. And I said, I'm actually having a really good time. I don't think I've ever stayed in a car, maybe once or twice when I was camping and it got really cold. But I go, this isn't like even camping. Fortunately, we had warm clothes on. I had my ski gear on because I thought I better just bring my pants in case it gets cold and my boots. And after about 3 hours, he goes, this isn't too bad. And it was just the shift of the mindset, the shift of, hey, this could actually be fun. I said, there are people that would probably pay for this experience who have a lot of money because you're like, can we do it? What will it be like? Again, you got to decide what you want. And you've got to also understand that you get to choose what experiences mean to you. And that is going to make a world of difference in your life, in what you achieve, and the end result of how you feel once you get it. If I would have known, I think I was so afraid that I wasn't going to be successful that I didn't even really enjoy the journey. I was so focused on getting to the destination. And my first destination was just $1 million net worth and $100,000 in income. And I remember I got there and it was like, well, nothing really changed. And I remember, okay, maybe it's just another million. And it was about 4 or 5 million in my net worth when I'm like, okay, another million is not going to solve this feeling of not enough, this feeling of a low worth barometer. And that's when I really went to work on myself, really learning to love myself, learning to accept the fact that I don't think like a lot of people. And that's probably why I've achieved the level of success I have. And I've really come to embrace that and really accept who I am and realize that, not only am I not perfect, no one is. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in thinking, what it's going to be like when we get there or what we need to be like. And learning to love yourself and be comfortable in your own skin, in my opinion, is probably the most important goal of all. So the next thing you got to do is you got to prioritize. So from the list you created, I want you to condense it and really identify your top 1 to 3 goals. Ideally, you have a total of about 3 to 5 goals, prioritized, both business ones as well as professional ones, that you can look at and make sure they really resonate with your why. Like, why are you doing it? Your level 3 why is where you become unstoppable. So just to review, like level 1 is like my house, my car, Level 2 is like our community, our family, our business. And then level 3 is where it's really about the impact you make. So like the Wealth Inside and Out podcast movement is all about really impacting all women, meaning and men, but all women and their partners is my priority. And, men want to come along for the journey. That's great. But I really want people to have the information. If they don't take action on it, I can't help that. But by just putting this out there and making it available to anyone, it's kind of like when Carnegie had all his money and he didn't know what to do because he had so many billions, he lost his wife, didn't have any children, and he decided to build libraries. It was so that anyone could get the information. And that's what I want you to understand is the fact that this information is there so that you can get it, you can apply it, and it can change your life. And when you get to your level 3 why, everything changes. I mean, that's why you work when you don't have to. People are like, why do you work? In fact, most of my friends don't work. And it's so funny because it's kind of like I change people's lives. And some people look at me like deer in the forest. If you've ever seen that, they're like, what? And other ones are like, that's incredible. But it's like, for me, it's like I committed that if I could figure out the secret of success and I could really figure out what it takes to get from point A to point B, I was going to share it with the world. And that's where I want you to get. But you got to get really clear on which goals are your top priority. So now what I want you to do is rank those. So from most important to least important, so you can really separate out the ones that really matter. All right, the next thing you got to do is you got to work on your worth barometer, because the reality of it is to show up and do the work that you need to do to achieve your goal, to get to where you want to get to not allow those dopamine loops to take over your life to where you can get on a drip and where you can get from making money to accumulating wealth. You've got to elevate your worth barometer. And if you go to themillionaireinsider.com/3, I dive deep into the worth barometer. But the worth barometer is just basically a term that I coined in my second book, The 7 Principles of Becoming a Millionaire for Life. And it's really the biggest determinant of success. It's a combination of belief and self-esteem, and it is critical to achieving any goal. You can have a low worth barometer in money. Clearly, there are a lot of people that fall in that category, but it's impossible to have a fulfilled life and wealth without a healthy worth barometer. It dictates everything about what you do, how you show up, how you react to people, what you say yes to, what you say no to. It is essential to a successful life. So I encourage you to go and download that episode and listen to it. Again, themillionaireinsider.com/3. And you can also go to themillionaireinsider.com/WBG to download the worth barometer guide. All right, you got to keep it simple. Less is more. And I really encourage you to focus on simplifying your business and life and only say yes when you really mean yes. Because you have to understand when you say yes, you're inherently saying no to something else. When I say yes to going out to happy hour with my friends, I might be saying no to having dinner with my son. So just be really clear on that. And I think you should have a relationship with your friends and with your family, but just be careful. A lot of people don't like saying no because they don't like confrontation, and they don't realize when they're saying yes, they're automatically saying no to something else. So be aware of that. All right, the next thing you got to do is write down your goals. So I recommend that you write them in affirmative goal statements. I am or I active verb. I was recently listening to this training and it was talking about possibilities and things that people can do. And almost everyone was saying, I will do this. And the problem with I will is it's out in the future. I was laughing because I gave a workshop and this woman, I don't even know how she connected with me, but make a long story short, she had been affirming a goal like, I will be financially free. And it was like, she's like, I've been doing that forever. And I go, well, what's the problem with that goal? Oh, I don't know. I go, well, how are goals supposed to be stated? Positive, present tense. Well, what's that? Oh my gosh, that's the future. I kid you not. Like she contacted me like 6 months later and she goes, you can't imagine it. Like I've accumulated 25% towards my net worth goal and I'm on fire. It's got to be positive, present tense, unless you want it to be in like 5 or 10 or 15 years. So for example, I weigh 130 pounds with ease, or I earn $500,000 in the year. So whatever year it is with ease, my family and I are healthy and happy, or my family and I are healthy and fulfilled. I serve X amount of clients. So all of those. Now, the one thing I will comment on, and I know most people want to be happy. The one thing you got to be aware of happiness, any emotion, is it's just a dangerous situation because sometimes you're happy, sometimes you're not. Now, That said, what I personally focus more in on is living fulfilled. So just be aware of that because some people get really confused on that. And then once you identify your goals, you got to identify high value activities. And the high value activities are the actions, the consistent actions you're going to take and need to take to achieve your goal. This is where most people miss the mark. They set this great goal and then they have no idea what they need to be doing on a daily basis to achieve it, or thinking or affirming. So you got to be really clear on high value activities. You then want to identify low value activities. These are things that need to be done, but you can delegate. Get those delegated, and then you got to eliminate non-value activities. Now, some non-value activities would be like just scrolling on social media for hours, watching endless TV. Now, that said, we don't watch TV Monday through Thursday, but then we watch our favorite shows. We record them and watch them Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so we found that works well. I find that I'm in a much better space where I am not watching news during the week when I'm working. But again, you got to figure out what works for you. The average person watches 6 hours a day, which I think is absolutely crazy. Think about what you could be doing with that time. But again, you got to see what works for you and just realize that high value activities are what move the needle forward. Income producing activities fall under high value activities. All right, sample goal categories. All right, spiritual, this is your greater purpose and inner peace. Personal, me time and development. Health, physical and mental. Family, both your immediate as well as your extended, and that can even include friends. Career, education and growth. Financial, money and financial freedom. And then community, which is charity and volunteering. All right, so let's look at some examples. I'm going to give you a few different ones. So personal, me time, and development. I think the most important goal you could have is I am enough. I am enough. I am calm. I'm in the flow. And then a high value activity for that would be I read my affirmative statements from 6:10 to 6:20 a.m. each morning. I write out my affirmative goal statements from 6:20 to 6:35 a.m. each morning. Just be specific so you know when you're going to do it and it's measurable. Health. An example of health would be physical and mental. So I am vibrantly healthy. I have abundant energy and feel terrific. I weigh how much pounds with ease. Now, let's say right now you're overweight, 20 pounds overweight. You weigh 150, you want to weigh 130. I want you to affirm what you want. I weigh 130 pounds with ease. And the reason that's so important is your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between something you visualize versus reality. That's why they see athletes that practice, ones that visualize, and ones that do both. And it's fascinating that the ones that practice and visualize are basically the same. The ones that do both are like 33% better. It's amazing what happens when you visualize. You see it happening before it happens. And it gets into your limbic, your primal brain, your subconscious mind, and it becomes reality. It's fascinating. Another one that you might have on physical and mental health is I am enough. I am enough, in my opinion, is the most positive, best affirmative statement you can have. Because at a core level, most people who are struggling or not where they want to be don't believe they're enough. And everything out there teaches us we're not enough. So high value activities would be I complete 6 7-minute power breaks each day. So in our performance mastermind, we operate on power hours, 50 to 70 minutes of laser focus, no interruption. And then you have 7 to 10 minutes of a power break, typically a 7-minute power break followed with a 3-minute focused breathing and setting your intention for the next hour. I power walk from 6:30 to 7 p.m. each day. I eat a balanced diet with healthy food choices consisting of organic vegetables, healthy fats, and lean proteins. All right, family. This is either immediate or extended. I have a loving and supportive family, or my family is loving and supportive. I spend Sunday afternoons with my family. I choose being happy over being right. High value activities would be I talk with my spouse each evening from 7 to 8 p.m. I go out to breakfast Friday morning from 7 to 7:45 with my son. So again, you just got to make sure that the goals are what you really want to achieve, and the high value activities are actions that are going to allow you to make it a reality. All right, the next thing you got to do then is you got to program it. Now, if you go to themillionaireinsider.com/4, in there we dive into programming your mind. But the bottom line is what you got to do is you got to get it into your primal brain, your child brain, your toddler brain, your subconscious mind, so that it becomes a possibility and it's not something that it's fighting against. And then you've got to bring it into your prefrontal cortex. And ideally, you're combining the two, your conscious mind, your prefrontal cortex, and your primal brain, your subconscious mind, and you're merging those together. It's virtually impossible to achieve a goal if those two are in conflict. And that's why affirming them, stating them is so important. Other things that also help is visualizing them, being really clear on what it is you want to achieve and seeing it. And completing the focused breathing exercise will help you with that. But then taking time to really see, what does your future look like and how do you feel? Getting really clear on what emotion you want when you have wealth is so important to do when you don't have wealth, because the journey will be easier and more fun. And then when you get there, you can really enjoy it. As I mentioned to you, I thought once I was a millionaire, everything would be great. Nothing changed. I remember being like, okay, I've got more money than most people, and I still felt really miserable. And I just didn't get it. And it was really at that point in time, because I had done some work, but where I really started doing work to really start getting clear on who I was and what I wanted, and really start loving myself from my inside as compared to from what I had achieved or what I had accomplished or what people out there thought. And I mean, it's a lot of work, and I'm not saying it's easy, but it is so worth it. And then the power of 7. The power of 7 is really identifying those top goals and the high value activities, writing them out in affirmative goal statements along with your high value activities, and reading them in the morning, writing them, and recording them so you're listening to them. And we're going to dive into the power of 7 in a future episode, so you can just wait for that. But one of the things that's so powerful when you're listening to what you want to achieve is it really does get into your subconscious mind, and doing it right when you wake up, when you're in the alpha state, or right when you go to sleep, when you're in that theta state, is so powerful. It's literally programming those into your subconscious mind. And it's really powerful for goals that like scare the daylights out of you, or you say you could never do. If you love the content, please share this with a friend, and also subscribe and follow us and give us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it. For today's show notes, go to themillionaireinsider.com/11. For all show notes, go to themillionaireinsider.com/podcast. So today's bonus resource is our goal setting guide. You can go to themillionaireinsider.com/GSG. If you're like our community, you love to start putting the episode into action. And the goal setting guide provides you the step-by-step plan so that you can start setting goals so you can achieve them. Again, themillionaireinsider.com/GSG. This resource provides you the insight millionaires and other successful people use to achieve their dream life. Again, themillionaireinsider.com/GSG. You're going to love that guide. So there you have it. Now, wasn't that easy? Now, before you get back to your day, I want you to just write out 3 to 5 goals. And if you have a business, make sure to include professional in there as well as personal. And, you can just split them halfway. If you don't have a business, then just do them for your finances or for your personal life. Then I want you to identify 2 high value activities that you're going to apply for each of the goals you set, and then go and schedule those into your calendar right now. Now, one of the key things, and this is huge, if you do it, you get a consequence. And if you don't do it, you get a consequence. So if you do it, like let's say, start out with 70%, be a little easy on yourself. I want you to get to like 85%. But if you get to 70%, then you can go and have a massage on Friday. You can go golfing on Friday, go get a pedicure, something like that, something you really enjoy. If you don't do it, then you got to write a check to your least favorite political group or your least favorite group. And I will tell you, having consequences is so important, because if you identify them up front, then it's not a punishment. It's just a consequence. It's great for kids. It's great for people who want to achieve goals. So make sure and do that. Congratulations on taking another step to create a financially free life you love. If you're not sure about your financial future, or that it's in order, or you are ready to stop worrying about money, or possibly the fear of becoming a bag lady, ending up broke in retirement, or you simply are ready to know your financial house is in order, so that you can have a bright financial future, please go to themillionaireinsider.com/NSF. And that doesn't stand for non-sufficient funds. It stands for Next Step Finance. It's the next best step of what you need to do so you can avoid an NSF notice in your future. Again, themillionaireinsider.com/NSF. The number of women who were not broke or poor while working or married is staggering. The entire mission of the Wealth Inside and Out podcast is to ensure you have the information for you, your family, your friends, anyone who's willing to listen to it and apply it so that you can create a financially free life you love. Again, themillionaireinsider.com/NSF. Until our next episode, take one action that will help you create a financially free life you love. I'm Annette Ba'u, your host. All international copyrights are reserved. Bye for now.